Hello, welcome to IT Expert YouTube video series. Today we are going to talk about data security. What is data security? Data security safeguards digital data from unwanted access, corruption, or theft. It is a notion that imparts physical security to hardware and software devices and covers all aspects of information security. It also imparts administrative and access controls and logical security to software applications. It also covers policies and procedures to be followed by a company. Why is data security important for cloud? Data is a valuable asset that generates, acquires, saves, and exchanges for any company. Protecting it from internal or external corruption and illegal access protects a company from financial loss, reputational harm, consumer trust degradation, and brand erosion. Furthermore, regulations for securing data, imposed by the government and the industry, make it critical for a company to achieve and maintain compliance wherever it does business. Types of data security controls. Access control. Limiting both physical and digital access to central systems and data is an example of a strategy for securing data. It involves ensuring that all computers and gadgets are password protected and that physical places are only accessible to authorized employees. Authentication. Provide authentication measures, such as access restrictions and correct identification of people, before giving access to data. Passwords, PINs, security tokens, swipe cards, and biometrics are common examples. Backups and disaster recovery. Good security means you have a strategy in place to safely access data in case of a system failure, disaster, data corruption, or breach. To restore, you will need a backup data copy kept on a distinct format such as a hard drive, local network, or cloud. Data erasure. Appropriate discarding of data regularly is necessary. Data erasure is more secure than ordinary data wiping since data erasure uses software to wipe data completely on any storage device. Data erasure ensures that data cannot be recovered and, hence, will not fall into the wrong hands. Data masking. Data masking software obscures letters and numbers with proxy characters, concealing information. Even if a person obtains access to data illegally, it is successfully masked. Only when an authorized user acquires data, then does it revert back to its original state. Data resilience. With comprehensive security, you can withstand or recover from failures. Avoid power outages and mitigate natural catastrophes as these factors can breach data protection. Data privacy can be implemented by incorporating resilience into your hardware and software. Encryption. With the help of encryption keys, a computer algorithm converts text characters into an unreadable format. The content can only be unlocked and accessed by authorized people who have the appropriate keys. To some extent, everything from files and databases to email conversations should be secured. What is GDPR General Data Protection Regulation Standard? The General Data Protection Regulation, agreed upon by the European Parliament and Council in April 2016, will replace the Data Protection Directive 95/46/EC in spring 2018 as the primary law regulating how companies protect EU citizens' personal data. Companies that are already in compliance with the directive must ensure that they are also compliant with the new requirements of the GDPR before it becomes effective on May 25, 2018. Companies that fail to achieve GDPR compliance before the deadline will be subject to stiff penalties and fines. GDPR requirements apply to each member state of the European Union, aiming to create more consistent protection of consumer and personal data across EU nations. Some of the key privacy and data protection requirements of the GDPR include: requiring the consent of subjects for data processing, anonymizing collected data to protect privacy, providing data breach notifications, safely handling the transfer of data across borders, requiring certain companies to appoint a data protection officer to oversee GDPR compliance. Simply put, the GDPR mandates a baseline set of standards for companies that handle EU citizens' data to better safeguard the processing and movement of citizens' personal data. What is PCI, the Payment Card Industry Data Security Standard? The Payment Card Industry Data Security Standard is a set of requirements intended to ensure that all companies that process, store, or transmit credit card information maintain a secure environment. It was launched on September 7, 2006, to manage PCI security standards and improve account security throughout the transaction process. An independent body created by Visa, MasterCard, American Express, Discover, and JCB, The PCI Security Standards Council administers and manages the PCI DSS. Interestingly, the payment brands and acquirers are responsible for enforcing compliance, rather than the PCI SSC. In order to provide an extensive resource on PCI compliance, this article includes a detailed overview of PCI SSC data security standards, the 12 requirements of PCI DSS compliance listed out and explained, benefits of PCI compliance, potential setbacks of being non-compliant, a roundup of collected tips from 18 Pieces DSS experts, an overview of PCI SSC data security standards. In an effort to enhance payment card data security, the PCI Security Standards Council provides comprehensive standards and supporting materials, which include specification frameworks, tools, measurements, and support resources to help organizations ensure the security of cardholder information at all times. The PCI DSS is the cornerstone of the Council, as it provides the necessary framework for developing a complete payment card data security process that encompasses prevention, detection, and appropriate reaction to security incidents. Tools and resources available from PCI SSC. Self-assessment questionnaires to assist organizations in validating their PCI DSS compliance. PIN transaction security requirements for device vendors and manufacturers and a list of approved PIN transaction devices. Payment application data security standard and a list of validated payment applications to help software vendors and others develop secure payment applications. Public resources. Lists of qualified security assessors. Payment application qualified security assessors. Approved scanning vendors. Internal security assessor education program. Data security. Regulation and compliance. What is Personally Identifiable Information Standard? Personally identifiable information is a legal term pertaining to information security environments. While PII has several formal definitions, generally speaking, it is information that can be used by organizations on its own or with other information to identify, contact, or locate a single person, or to identify an individual in context. Non-sensitive PII can be transmitted in unsecure form without causing harm to an individual. Sensitive PII must be transmitted and stored in secure form, for example, using encryption, because it could cause harm to an individual, if disclosed. Organizations use the concept of PII to understand which data they store, process and manage that identifies people and may carry additional responsibility, security requirements, and in some cases legal or compliance requirements. What is Children's Online Privacy Protection Rule? The Children's Online Privacy Protection Act specifically aims to protect the privacy of children under the age of 13 by requesting parental consent for the collection or use of any personal information of the users. The Act took effect in April 2000 and was revised in 2013. The Act was passed in response to a growing awareness of Internet marketing techniques that targeted children and collected their personal information from websites without any parental notification. The Act applies to commercial websites and online services that are directed at children. The main requirements of the Act that a website operator must comply with include incorporation of a detailed privacy policy that describes the information collected from its users, acquisition of a verifiable parental consent prior to collection of personal information from a child under the age of 13, disclosure to parents of any information collected on their children by the website, a right to revoke consent and have information deleted, limited collection of personal information when a child participates in online games and contests, a general requirement to protect the confidentiality, security, and integrity of any personal information that is collected online from children. Congress' intent in passing the Act was to increase parental involvement in children's online activities, ensure children's safety during their participation in online activities, and most importantly, protect children's personal information. What is HIPAA standard? The Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act sets the standard for sensitive patient data protection. Companies that deal with protected health information must have physical, network, and process security measures in place and follow them to ensure HIPAA compliance. Covered entities: anyone providing treatment, payment, and operations in healthcare, and business associates: anyone who has access to patient information and provides support in treatment, payment, or operations must meet HIPAA compliance. Other entities, such as subcontractors and any other related business associates, must also be in compliance. What is the Cloud Controls Matrix? The CSA Cloud Controls Matrix is a cybersecurity control framework for cloud computing. It is a spreadsheet that lists 16 domains covering all key aspects of cloud technology. Each domain is broken up into 133 control objectives. It can be used as a tool to systematically assess cloud implementation, by providing guidance on which security controls should be implemented by which actor within the cloud supply chain. The controls framework is aligned to the Security Guidance v4 and is currently considered a de facto standard for cloud security assurance and compliance. What does compliance inheritance means? Inheritance in the world of compliance is what happens when you inherit a control or control set from another entity. In cloud computing, you are often inheriting large amounts of controls from the cloud service provider. What is CAKE? CAKE is an acronym for the Consensus Assessment Initiative Questionnaire. This questionnaire is a downloadable spreadsheet of yes or no questions that correspond to the controls of CSA's Cloud Controls Matrix, our cybersecurity controls framework for cloud computing. An IaaS, PaaS, or SaaS cloud service provider can use the CAKE to document what security controls exist in their services. This increases security control transparency for potential customers, who can then determine if the CSP's cloud services are secure enough for the customer's purposes. What is STAR? STAR encompasses the key principles of transparency, rigorous auditing, and harmonization of standards outlined in the Cloud Controls Matrix. Publishing to the registry allows organizations to show current and potential customers their security and compliance posture, including the regulations, standards, and frameworks they adhere to. It ultimately reduces complexity and helps alleviate the need to fill out multiple customer questionnaires. What is StarWatch? Cloud Security Alliance StarWatch is a software as a service application to help organizations manage compliance with CSA STAR security, trust and assurance registry requirements. StarWatch delivers the content of the Cloud Controls Matrix and Consensus Assessments Initiative Questionnaire in a database format, enabling users to manage compliance of cloud services with CSA practices. What is contract? A contract is like a promise between people. It is an understanding, a deal between two or more people or organizations to do certain things. Each person or organization who agrees to do something in a contract is called a party. What is data subject? Data security is the practice of protecting digital information from unauthorized access, corruption, or theft throughout its entire lifecycle. It is a concept that encompasses every aspect of information security, from the physical security of hardware and storage devices to administrative and access controls, as well as the logical security of software applications. It also includes organizational policies and procedures. When properly implemented, robust data security strategies will protect an organization's information assets against cybercriminal activities, but they also guard against insider threats and human error, which remains among the leading causes of data breaches today. Data security involves deploying tools and technologies that enhance the organization's visibility into where its critical data resides and how it is used. Ideally, these tools should be able to apply protections like encryption, data masking, and redaction of sensitive files, and should automate reporting to streamline audits and adhering to regulatory requirements. What is data custodian? A data custodian is an administration-type role that is oversees or is related to the storage, aggregation and the use of data sets. Data custodians focus on the how instead of the why of data storage. Data custodians have the ability to structure or restructure a relational database system, work with middleware to serve a central data warehouse, or provide schemes or workflows that show how databases are structured. This type of administration role can be involved with the data governance team. A data custodian ensures that access to the data is authorized and controlled. Data stewards are identified for each data set. Technical processes sustain data integrity. Processes exist for data quality issue resolution in partnership with data stewards. Technical controls safeguard data. Data added to data sets are consistent with the common data model. Versions of master data are maintained along with the history of changes. Change management practices are applied in maintenance of the database. Data content and changes can be audited. What is a data processor? The data processor only processes identifiable personal data on behalf of the data controller. The data processor is usually a third party that is external to the company. In a contract or another legal act, the duties of the processor towards the controller must be specified, such as letting data controllers know what happens with personal data once a private contract is terminated. Data processors include machines that perform operations on data, such as calculators or computers, and now cloud service providers can be labeled as data processors. A third-party data processor does not own or control the data they process. The data processor cannot change the purpose of the data or how it is used. What is data security life cycle? As the term may indicate, the data life cycle is a concept that encompasses the whole life of it from the moment of data creation, data cleaning, until the moment it is deleted. In this process, your data goes through numerous stages that make up the concept of data life cycle. In life, every being goes through different phases: birth, childhood, adulthood, and old age. Similar to different living beings, not all data is the same, so not all data has the same life cycle. A butterfly, for instance, has a shorter lifespan than an elephant. Similarly, different types of data have different lifespans. How to project data using encryption. Create a strategy for securing data. Protect data in transit. Determine which data to encrypt. Control the access to data. Prepare a backup strategy. Data encryption is a continuous process. As your business grows, you would have more data to encrypt regularly. Data protection in the cloud. Key best practices. Know your responsibilities in the cloud using a cloud service does not mean that the cloud provider is responsible for your data. You and your provider share responsibilities. This shared responsibility model allows cloud providers to ensure that the hardware and software services they provide are secure while cloud consumers remain responsible for the security of their data assets. Cloud providers often offer better security than many companies can achieve on their own. On the other hand, cloud consumers lose visibility because the cloud vendor is in charge of infrastructure operations. Challenges can arise when development, operations, hosting, and security responsibilities get mixed up between in-house teams and cloud vendors. Ask about providers' processes in case of a breach. Cloud vendors should provide transparent and well-documented plans, outlining mitigation and support during breaches. A worst-case scenario can mean that multiple fail-safes and alarms are immediately triggered during a breach, alerting all relevant parties that an attack is happening. Another emergency measure is triggering a lockdown that secures data before it could be transferred or decrypted. Identify security gaps between systems. Using a cloud service does not mean that the cloud provider is responsible for your data. You and your provider share responsibilities. This shared responsibility model allows cloud providers to ensure that the hardware and software services they provide are secure while cloud consumers remain responsible for the security of their data assets. Cloud providers often offer better security than many companies can achieve on their own. On the other hand, cloud consumers lose visibility because the cloud vendor is in charge of infrastructure operations. Challenges can arise when development, operations, hosting, and security responsibilities get mixed up between in-house teams and cloud vendors. Ask about providers' processes in case of a breach. Cloud vendors should provide transparent and well-documented plans, outlining mitigation and support during breaches. A worst-case scenario can mean that multiple fail-safes and alarms are immediately triggered during a breach, alerting all relevant parties that an attack is happening. Another emergency measure is triggering a lockdown that secures data before it could be transferred or decrypted. Identify security gaps between systems. Cloud environments are typically integrated with other services, some in-house while some are third-party. The more systems and vendors you add to the stack, the more gaps are created. Organizations need to identify each security gap and take measures that ensure the security of the data and assets shared and used by these systems. While some measures are implemented by third-party vendors, organizations also need to implement their own measures to ensure compliance and security. Each industry is required to uphold certain security practices. Third-party vendors do not always offer the same level of compliance. Utilize file-level encryption. Organizations should implement comprehensive file-level encryption measures, even if cloud vendors provide basic encryption. File-level encryption can serve as the basis of your cloud security, adding a layer of protection before uploading data to the cloud. You can also shard data into fragments. Storing shards in different locations make it difficult for threat actors to assemble the whole file, even if they manage to breach the system. Transfer data securely. You can implement point-to-point security by combining additional encryption with SSL for all communications. You can use secure email and file protection tools, which enable you to track and control who can see your data, who can access that data, when and how access is revoked, all actions or specific actions like forwarding. You can restrict the types of data that are allowed to be transferred outside your organization ecosystems. You should also restrict certain uses of data, and ensure that users and recipients comply with data protection regulations. Backup data consistently. Create data replicates regularly and store them separately from the main repository. Consistent backups can help protect your organization from critical data losses, especially during a data wipeout or a lockdown. Data replicas enable you to continue working offline even when cloud assets are not available. Thank you for watching this video. We provide hands-on training with labs, homework, group projects. Prepare you for the certification. Provide real projects. Internship opportunities. Support you in Resume, LinkedIn. Staffing support. Provide tech references. In-person, online class. Class retake options and more. Call us at 847-350-9034 for your free career consultation meeting. Please do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for the latest videos.